Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Syngenta Canada, Alberta Wheat Commission, and C&M Seeds.
Kelvin Hepner with Real Agriculture. We are at the Canadian Grain Commission's office here in downtown Winnipeg and joined by Daryl Beswitherick. Daryl is the program manager for quality assurance. Is that right?
That's correct, yep.
I always have to be reminded what your title is, Daryl. We're talking about this year's wheat crop in Western Canada and what we're seeing in terms of quality profile. That's something that you look after here at the CGC. So what are we seeing in terms of general themes with the 2016-17 crop?
So
or 2015-2016.
Yes, the weather that we received this growing season, and particularly this fall, definitely played an impact on what we're seeing, and so Fusarium damage was the most common grading factor that we saw, and then mildew and then lack of HVK are the other two that were pretty predominant in both red spring and CWRS, or sorry, amber durum this year.
So how would the Fusarium levels compare with historical levels on the prairies?
Well, this year in the red spring, there was actually 48.6% of the samples that we received in our harvest sample program were downgraded on account of Fusarium damage. This is, we're typically down 25 to 30% maybe, so that is up significantly from previous years. We saw it a little bit higher in the durum. Durum was 64.6% of the samples that we saw were downgraded because of Fusarium damage, and we saw some pretty significant levels of Fusarium damage as well. So more impact on the durum than on red spring.
Okay, but this would be the all-time highest level of Fusarium that we've seen?
I believe so. In my time, I've been here now for 17 years, and that's the highest that I've seen, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
do you have a geographical idea of how it's spreading west and north as well?
Yeah, we, with our mycology lab, they actually monitor the movement of Fusarium. They are, the Fusarium is present into western Saskatchewan and into Alberta this year, more so than we've typically seen in the past. Typically, you really don't see a lot in Alberta, but this year it is present. It didn't cause a lot of significant downgrading in Alberta, but it's definitely present and there this year. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What about mildew? Where did we see that, and how bad is that issue this year?
Mildew for red spring is 11.7% of the samples that we've graded were downgraded count of mildew, and for durum 9.2%. So not as significant as the Fusarium damage, but definitely was present this year. The bonus or the good thing that we're not seeing, typically with mildew, it's caused by moisture. We typically see sprouted that goes along with the mildew. We are not seeing the excessive amounts of sprouted. It is present. There are certain samples that are impacted, but very low levels this year.
So are we seeing that mildew in the areas that got that snow and rain in October?
Though definitely that. We definitely saw mildew earlier than that as well. For example, in the Lethbridge area, a lot of the durum was downgraded for mildew only. There was no Fusarium present down there, but there was mildew, and this was earlier than that snow. Anything of the wheat that came off after the snow definitely had mildew present, along with some sprouting, and Fusarium damage was still there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've just returned from a new crop mission to South America. They've been taking place over the last couple of weeks. What does this mean in terms of the message that is brought to international customers?
Well, the message is that we don't shy away from telling them that we had some significant rain in 2016, and that it does have an impact on the quality of the crop. But we do go down and we present that there is still good quality crop out there. For instance, in the durum, there's still there's about 20% in the top 2 grades, and then 28% in the number 3 grade. So when you add it up, you're still half the crop is in the top 3 grades. Also, we promote that even though there's Fusarium damage present, it's not something new to the Canadian grain industry. The grain industry has been managing Fusarium damage for many years now, so they'll be able to continue to manage the issue of Fusarium damage. There are methods, to do some cleaning, to be able to blend, to manage the crop to ensure we get as much crop into the highest grade as possible, and to meet customers' demands, and that we are familiar with the DAWN level. So that's the toxin that goes along with Fusarium damage. We know what the limits are for countries, and the industry can manage to meet the expectations of customers.
You brought up DAWN. We haven't talked about that yet. What are we seeing in terms of actual DAWN levels? Because that's where it actually matters, right?
Correct.
More than the Fusarium?
Yeah. It's variable. It really is. We're seeing throughout the harvest, we saw typically, historically, DAWN and Fusarium had about a 1-to-1 relationship. This year we're seeing higher levels, a 2, 3, 4-to-1 relationship. Now that was early on. Have heard some testing from some of the companies where it's actually inverse now. It's where the DAWN is lower than what it should be compared to the Fusarium damage. So it takes a lot of testing, and it'll be shipment by shipment that will to determine where the DAWN is on each particular shipment, because there are different species of Fusarium damage that cross the prairies. And if you have the species Avanesium, that species does not produce DAWN. So you could have the Fusarium damaged kernels, but may not produce DAWN. So there is some blending capacity there to ensure that shipments do meet specification.
Mm-hmm. And that's obviously going to be one of the challenges this year, is all the blending and logistics that this creates.
It's going to be a very challenging year for the industry to manage. It's going to take a lot of testing to ensure that shipments meet the specification and the requirements for the countries they're shipping to, but which is all added cost to the industry, but it's necessary, and the industry, we have full confidence the industry can manage this and ship this year's crop. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your time again, Daryl.
You're very welcome.